Welcome to the Business Shop Podcast, where our guests speak on meeting the challenges of entrepreneurship, as well as offer tips and advice on business, marketing, technology, and more. Whether you are a newbie or a seasoned professional, this episode is for you. I am your host, Audrey Wiggins. Let's chop it up. Our guest today is Willie Johnson of Willie J. Willie J Speaks, and he's hailing us all the way from Arkansas in the great United States of America. And Willie is known as the Ambassador of Potentiality. And I'm sure he's going to explain all of that as we go forth in our interview. Willie J, welcome to the Business Chop. What's going on?
Oh, everything is going on, and I like the way you said Ambassador of Potentiality. Actually, it is that, but also it is America's #1 Ambassador of Potentiality, and I am glad to be here.
Please forgive me, I made that mistake. America's #1. How about that?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you got it right. It's never too late for anyone to live up to their potential.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you said that, because we all have, no matter what age we are or how far along we are in our careers and our professions, we all sometimes run into that alter ego called imposter, known as the imposter syndrome. Can you talk a little bit about that before we get into your intro and with the great gems you have to share with us today?
Great question. Yeah, I always say it's never too late to live up to your potential. It's never too late to create a larger vision for our lives. And when we lose that, that means we're telling ourselves bogus stories in our mind that we can't do this, or I won't be able to do this, or I'm at an age now where I won't be able to accomplish certain things. So what we have to do is to quit telling ourselves those stories. I call them bogus stories that hold us back.
Wow. What are those stories, that negative self-talk?
Well, when you think about negative self-talk, we're telling ourselves things we can't do. Oh, that's not going to happen to me. That happened to them, but it won't happen to me. That person had a windfall, but there is no way that that's going to happen to me. There's no way that I'm going to reach that level of success. There's no way that I'm going to be able to make more than $50,000 a year. So when I see those things, I say, you should never let anyone tell you what you can't do, especially if they have never done it. So the person that's telling you that you can make $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year or whatever, that tells me that they have never done it.
Absolutely. And we need to run for the border when those folks come in our space, for sure.
So, yeah, I call those toxic people.
Very, very much so. We need to put that out. We need to neutralize that acid for sure. So I know you have different workshops and seminars. So what are some of the typical or atypical situations that are presented to you as a coach?
Great question. Some of the things that are presented to me being a coach is, how do I communicate better in the team, or how do I communicate better as a leader, or how do I use my behavioral traits to be a better person? Those are some of the types of things that I do. And one of the best things that I like to do when I encounter that is, it gives me joy when I help people how to understand themselves better. Because you really have to dig deep and understand yourself better before you can reach out and start dealing with others. So that's where I get my most pleasure from, when people present problems and I give them a solution that's all around how to understand themselves better, how to communicate better, and how to play better in the sandbox overall.
Can you break that down and give some details? Say if that person was in your audience or in your office as as an individual, client, what is that? What is that conversation?
When you think about the conversation, I hope I got this question right because you're asking me a tough question and I'm gonna break it down.
I promised I would.
But that's okay.
Questions. Okay.
I had a young man in my office yesterday, and they were talking to me, wanted to talk to about writing a book and being able to communicate in that book certain points. And so one of the things that I did right off the bat is say, okay, you need to tell me what it is you're trying to accomplish, what it is you want to do, and who you are trying to reach. As for when I say reach, what audience they're trying to reach. And then we would go from there. And then once I do that, when I talk about helping them understand themselves better, I have to be able to, I tell them at some given point in time, they started at the bottom and now they're here. And so what they have to do is they have to realize that based on who they're talking to or what kind of points that they're trying to make, that they have to sometimes go back and think about some of the things that they did when they were at that particular. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it does. Absolutely.
So it's just going back sometimes and understand where you're coming from and understand that as one of the things that I told him, I said, when you were a baby, you had to learn to crawl before you can walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really, really have to mentally go back and talk about some of those stages as you bring people up to the level that you're trying to get them to.
That was a great answer, Willie. Thanks for for sharing that with us and taking it to a different topic. Communications. I know you're a master at communications, and also not just a master at it yourself, but training others. You can train us how to be better communicators, and some of that all goes back to, or the foundation that is living up to our potential. Feeling good about ourselves or believing in ourselves. Combine those and bring that together, in a situation.
First of all, let me just say that communication is not only the key to our individual success, communication is the key to our organization success, whether we are in an organization of 1, 5, 20, or whatever the case may be. Communication is what it's all about. Without communication, we cannot do anything. So one of the things that I tend to tell people or show people how to communicate better, but it all starts with them understanding themselves better and understanding that people have different types of behaviors. Some people, you can walk into the office in the morning and say, good morning, how you doing? And that's what they like. Some people, you can walk in and say, good morning, how you doing? And they look at you like you're crazy. And, so it's different types of people, different styles. So when you think about that, you just have to be a better communicator and a more effective communicator. You really have to try to learn the various behaviors of the people that's in your circle so that you know how to communicate with them. And once you learn that, everything is going to be a lot smoother. It's not going to be 100%, but it really is going to be a lot smoother. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're trying to say that we have to be a mind reader? Or are we just giving grace to people and it's, so we don't get to go back in our office and grumble or, go to pull somebody to the side like, what is up with her?
No, that's great. I'm not saying you have to be a mind reader, but you have to be observant.
Okay.
You really, really have to be observant. In your daily dealings with others, you have to notice how they move, how they walk, the things that they say. And based on just the things that they say should give you some idea how to communicate better with them. For example, let me say that you and I are working in the same office. Every day I walk in with my bubbly self and I say, hey, Audrey, how you doing today? And you look at me like you're crazy. Sooner or later, I got to get the bright idea that you don't care about that. And that's not what you want to hear. So one of these days, I might just walk in and says, hey, good morning, Audrey. What do we have on our chart for today?
Then I would probably look at you like you're crazy. I'm like, what happened to the bubbly Willie?
You know, so you have to understand those type of things so that you can deal with others. Because, like it says, it's all about communication. I mean, communication prevents us from having conflict. It allows us to be able to deal with conflict better. And most of all, communication allows us to be able to connect with our clients and customers.
What advice would you have for the newbie?
You know, great question, Audrey. I think one of the first things people have to understand, especially a new person, that new person there, that they don't know it all. They really don't know it all. And what got them to that point is not necessarily what's going to get them to the next level. So one of the things that I tend to ensure when I'm talking to that entry level person, I make sure that they understand that. And then on top of that, the next thing that actually follows, I make sure that they go out and get them a mentor and make sure that that mentor is not their manager. Yeah, some people will disagree with that, but you asked me the question and I'm giving you my answer, and it should not be their manager, even though they should always listen to their manager and follow their manager. But I'm talking about being a real, true mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you do need somebody who's on the outside looking in on the situation. And if you're a mentor to me, I think where you're going is your manager, at some point, they may hold back because they see your growth. They may start to become intimidated. So that's great advice to make sure your mentor is outside. So what about that newbie in a business, a startup, and they're the owner, they're CEO, and they just came out, maybe they just left corporate America, but they have a product or a service to sell, and they're excellent at what they do, but they really don't, how do they develop those communication skills?
Great question. One of the things that everyone has to understand, especially if they leave the corporate world and they want to go in for themselves, they have to always seek new knowledge. They really have to always seek new knowledge. Take a class, take this, whether it's going to be on the internet or whatever the case may be, they must continue to learn. Because if they're going into business for themselves, they are going to have to understand how to communicate. They're going to have to understand how to do their books. They're going to have to understand the numbers. I'm not saying that they're going to be the ones actually putting that stuff together and sitting down making it happen. But bottom line, they're going to have to understand when that person says, okay, this is your spreadsheet, this is your operational costs, these are these type of things. They're going to have to be able to look at that and say, this makes sense, and have the knowledge to be able to say, well, can you explain that line to me? Right. So one of the things that I will say is they really, really have to continue their education, and they can get their education from all different venues. It's called growth. One of the lines that I use is, if you want to go from where you are to where you want to be, you have to grow from how you are to how you ought to be. And so when we think about that new person, it is about continual growth and learning.
They would have to be living up to their potential. And that's the only way that they're going to get there, by continually to grow and to plug in organizations like yours and to get coaches and mentors. Because you're right, we don't know it all. What we know is that the product or service that we create or produce.
Yeah, and so that's really not the end all. Yeah, I like, and that was the title of my book, just in case before you asked.
Oh, please. Yeah.
It's never too late to live up to your potential, and in that continual growth, it allows us to create a larger vision for our life. So how do we keep moving up? What's that next level? What's that next level? We don't want to just get to a place and stop. A lot of people don't get to be great because they never get past good. So what we want to do is we want to keep growing, keep learning, keep doing. And also, it has a lot to do with our network. Who are we talking to? What are we feeding our mind? What are we feeding our mind? What are we allowing to get into our mind? I try not to let weeds grow in my mind. And you know what weeds can do if you have a flower bed or whatever, those weeds can eat up everything.
That's right.
So,
They take
so
over.
yeah. So it's all of those things combined. So there's not just one or two things, it's just all of those things combined that a new person that's stepping out on faith. Oh, did I use that word faith? Because I, they have to have faith and they have to be willing to take a risk. Now, I didn't say be willing to give away the farm, but they have to be willing to take a risk. And the last thing that I will say, and you can identify with this, and they have to be able to make a decision.
Oh, wow. Yes, absolutely. Yes, you'll be sitting there staring at your computer screen or some papers and ain't nothing happening till you decide.
All decisions
Take
is not going to
action.
be the best decision, but it's going to be a decision. And down the road, like I said, down the road, it may turn out that it wasn't the best decision, but there was a learning process that took place. And at least you made a decision, because if you don't make a decision, that's making a decision anyway in the long run.
That's right. Yep, that's right. That's right. Inaction is still an action. But Willie, you little to your book. Tell us a little about that, where we can get it. And you have your other book as well. And go ahead.
The first book I wrote, it's never too late. Think about this. It is never too late to live up to your potential. I wrote that book in 2015. And Audrey, back in 2015 was a year that some major organizations were doing some major cutbacks in personnel. And I had several great friends, and they were let go, not because of them or their capabilities. They were let go because of some of those major uh, corporate cutbacks that was going on. And I remember as if it was yesterday, they were, woe is me. What am I going to do now? I was expecting to retire, and I was expecting to do this, and I was expecting to do that. So they became that woe is me syndrome, and the light bulb came on. I had always said I wanted to write a book. I had always said that I wanted to go into business for myself, and the light bulb came on. There it is. Let me do something to try to help those people that's singing that song, woe is me, at the age, let me just say at middle age, or at a point in their lives when they were almost looking toward retirement. So I wrote that book, It's Never Too Late to Live Up to Your Potential, that lists 15 things that people have to do to live up to their potential. And they're standalone, so there's not a lot of stories in that book. Some short stories. Real quick. One of the things that I do, I like to read, and you probably know that I like to read. But
Yes.
sometimes I can't pull the nugget out of the things that I read. Some people may say that's good. Some people may say that's bad. Sometimes I can't really put my finger on that nugget that I'm reading. So that was my inspiration when I wrote It's Never Too Late to Live Up to Your Potential. I wanted to just throw the nuggets out there, just a short little story, because I didn't want them to try to figure out what the answer was.
Right.
Or what the point was. I wanted them to say, okay, this is it. Now you either can use it or not use it, but this is cutting through all of the grass. And so I wrote that book, and it is available on Amazon.
Okay.
So all you have to do is go to Amazon.com and look up Willie Johnson, It's Never Too Late. And then that leads to the book that I wrote with the stories that tells about all the things that I've done and learned along the way. And that book is called Be Amazing. And that book is also available on Amazon. And one of the things that I tell you about being amazing, people say, Willie, come on, talk about being amazing. Well, you can be amazing just like I did. And I'm not saying that I'm the best, but I said you can be amazing. Just think about this. At the end of my first year in college, I was placed on academic probation. When I got my degree, I graduated magna cum laude.
All right.
So you can be amazing.
And that's living up to your potential is
Yeah.
The 2 books go are in one, if you ask me. That's
Yeah.
all right.
One leads to the other, and I tell about all of those stories, plus on how that transition happened.
Wow.
And both of those books are available on Amazon.com, or they can go to my website, williejspeaks.com, and order the book. It won't necessarily come to me unless they send me a direct message and say, hey, I'd like for you to send me a book with your signature on it. But it's on my website. And of course, when you click on it, it takes them directly to Amazon.
Okay. Wow. Willie, you're going to have to come back so we can just have a conversation about those books, because to use your own word, that's amazing. Because you're amazing, and appreciate the time that you spent here today, and I can't wait to put this together and get it out there, get your message out. So I want to thank you again. If there's a final word, I'm going to let you have it, and we're going to move on.
The thing that I would say, I'll leave the final word is simply this, something that I said earlier today, and it's simply this. If you want to go from where you are to where you want to be, you have to grow from how you are to how you ought to be. That's one statement that I think everyone should plant in their heart and understand, that if you're going to keep moving forward, you have to be able to land on something or a statement similar to that. Because the last thing, here it is, Arthur, wait for it. It doesn't matter what you drive. What matters is what drives you.
I hope everybody, including me, has got that nugget, swallowed it, and let it go through our bloodstream.
Yeah, Archie, we have to just wake up in the morning and say, I promise me and me only that the rest of my life will be the best of my life. So I'll repeat. If you want to go from where you are to where you want to be, you have to grow from how you are to how you ought to be.
That's it. Willie Johnson. Plug him to him, williejspeaks.com. Thanks, Willie.
Thank you for listening to The Business Chop. We hope that you were able to glean valuable information from our guest and that you will download and share this podcast. Your rating and review is much appreciated. To go deeper with our guests, please visit their website and social channels. To learn more about us, please visit businesschop.info or altogether.biz, where we will help you expand your brand.